You are not a trader. You have never been a trader. You sit on the other side of the screen, inside a system most retail traders do not know exists, making decisions that shape what they see, what they feel, and ultimately what they do. You are the market maker. And this is what your day actually looks like. It starts before the market opens. While retail traders are checking their charts over morning coffee, setting alerts, reviewing yesterday's losses, you are already positioned. You know where the liquidity is sitting. You know where the stop losses are clustered. You know which price levels are going to pull the most emotional reaction from the largest number of participants. You are not guessing. You are reading a map that most people in the market do not even know exists. The first thing to understand is what a market maker actually does. You provide liquidity. That is the official definition. What it means in practice is that when someone wants to buy, you are there to sell to them. When someone wants to sell, you are there to buy from them. You are on the other side of every trade. This is not predatory by design. It is structural by necessity. Markets cannot function without someone willing to take the other side. But here is the part they leave out of the textbook explanation. You profit most when the people on the other side of your trades are wrong. You do not move price randomly. Price moves to where the most liquidity exists. Liquidity is just a word for resting orders. Stop losses are resting orders. Limit orders are resting orders. When a large cluster of stop losses sits just below a support level that thousands of retail traders are watching on their charts, that cluster represents a pool of orders waiting to be triggered. And triggering those orders creates the movement you need to fill your own positions at favorable prices. This is not manipulation in the illegal sense. It is mechanics. It is how the system is structured. By 9:30 in the morning, the retail traders are watching the open. They are looking for direction. They want to see if the market is going up or going down. They have their lines drawn. They have their levels marked. They are waiting for confirmation. You already know that confirmation is the most dangerous word in a retail trader's vocabulary. Because the moment price confirms a direction to the majority of observers, the majority of retail traders enter in the same direction at the same time. And that means the other side of all those trades lands on your book at once. Here is what happens next, and very few people understand this clearly enough. When retail traders all enter in one direction simultaneously, you are absorbing that flow. They are buying, you are selling to them. They are selling, you are buying from them. Your job is to manage the risk of holding the opposite position. So you hedge, you adjust, and you route that flow through the broader market. But while you are doing all of this, you are also watching something very specific. You are watching how much conviction is behind the move. And the fastest way to test conviction is to push price in the opposite direction first. That reversal you see right after the open, the one that stops out the early breakout traders before the real move begins, that is not random. It is a test. Price moves down into the liquidity sitting below the morning low. Stop losses trigger. Retail traders who bought the breakout are now exited at a loss. The weak hands are cleared. The orders that were sitting there get absorbed. And now the market can move in the direction it was always going to move, with cleaner structure and less resistance. The traders who survived the stop hunt now watch price go exactly where they thought it was going, but they are no longer in the trade. You understand something fundamental about human psychology that most retail traders spend years trying to learn and still get wrong. People place their stop losses in predictable locations. They put them just below support. They put them just above resistance. They place them at round numbers. They cluster at the same levels because they are all looking at the same charts, reading the same books, watching the same YouTube tutorials. And when everyone marks the same level, that level becomes visible on an institutional order flow map. It lights up like a target, not because someone is hunting you specifically, because that is where the liquidity lives. The spread is where your baseline income comes from. When you quote a price, you quote two numbers simultaneously: the price you are willing to buy at and the price you are willing to sell at. The difference between those two numbers is the spread. Every time a retail trader enters and exits a trade, that spread is captured by you. It is fractions of a cent per share in equities. It is fractions of a pip in forex. But when you are facilitating millions of transactions a day, those fractions become a very large number before lunch. The spread alone funds the infrastructure. What funds the growth is position. Order flow analysis is how you read what the market is actually telling you beneath the surface of price, not the candles, not the indicators, the raw orders. When a large institutional buyer is accumulating a position in a stock, they cannot buy it all at once. Buying millions of shares in a single order would move price so far against them that the position would be unprofitable before they finished entering it. So they break it up. They feed it in over time, in smaller pieces, across different price levels, using algorithms designed to look like normal market activity. But to someone reading order flow carefully, the pattern is visible. The absorption of selling pressure at a specific level, the consistent bid that holds even when news is negative, the quiet accumulation that precedes the move most retail traders attribute to luck or insider trading. Retail traders look at price. You look at what is happening behind price. There is a difference between a candle closing green and institutional money actually moving into a position. One is a symptom, the other is the cause. Most trading education teaches people to read symptoms. Nobody teaches them to look for causes, because causes live in the data that requires infrastructure and capital to access properly. You watch the options market as carefully as you watch equities. Options positioning tells you where large participants expect price to be at expiration. The gamma exposure of market makers like yourself creates invisible walls and floors in the market. When the market is near a large option strike, the hedging activity required to maintain a neutral book actually suppresses volatility and pulls price toward that strike. Retail traders call this a magnet level. You call it gamma pinning, and you know exactly where it is because you built the position. The concept of a stop hunt deserves more precision than it usually gets in trading education circles. It is not a coordinated group of traders deciding to move price to collect stops. It is the natural consequence of the market moving toward liquidity. Price does not move without a reason. The reason is always the same. Someone with enough capital needs to fill a large order, and the only way to fill it without moving price too far is to move price toward where the most orders are already sitting. Stops are orders. Limit orders are orders. Everything is an order. And orders are the fuel that large participants need to enter and exit positions at scale. By midday, the market often quiets. Volume drops. The spreads widen slightly. This is not an accident. The algorithmic systems that drive most market activity are calibrated to participate most aggressively when volume is high enough to provide cover. In a low-volume environment, large orders move price more dramatically, so participation pulls back. The retail trader sitting at their screen watching a flat afternoon market is experiencing the absence of institutional interest. Nothing is happening because nobody with real size wants to move right now. The afternoon consolidation is a waiting room. Then the last hour arrives. The final hour of the trading session carries disproportionate volume in every major market. Funds are rebalancing, algorithms are executing end-of-day positioning, options are expiring or being hedged. The market on close orders are being filled. This is when price often makes its most decisive move of the day. And this is when retail traders who have been sitting through a flat afternoon make their worst decisions. They see movement and assume a new trend. They chase the close. They enter late into a move that was designed to fill institutional orders, not to provide retail entry points. At the end of every trading day, you mark your book, you assess your net exposure across every instrument you traded, you identify the risk you are carrying overnight. Overnight gaps can move against you. News breaks at 3 in the morning. Earnings come out after hours. Economic data drops before the open in Asia. You hedge accordingly. You are not speculating on direction. You are managing risk at every moment. The profit comes from the process, not from being right about where the market is going. This is the part that should matter most to anyone watching their account slowly bleed out on a month-by-month basis. The edge you are competing against is not another retail trader who happens to be better at reading charts. It is an operation with collocation servers sitting 40 feet from the exchange matching engine. It is algorithms that can execute and cancel orders in 400 microseconds. It is teams of quantitative analysts building pricing models that price in probabilities across thousands of variables simultaneously. This is not designed to discourage you. It is designed to tell you something specific. If you were trying to compete with that on its own terms, using lagging indicators and emotional decision-making, you are playing the wrong game entirely. The retail traders who survive long enough to become consistently profitable are not the ones who found a better indicator or a better chart pattern. They are the ones who changed what they were actually trying to do. They stopped trying to predict where price would go. They started trying to understand where liquidity was positioned and what had to happen before a real move could begin. They stopped chasing confirmation. They started asking what has to happen first before the move I want to trade is even possible. Smart money is not smarter than retail money in the sense of intelligence. It is smarter in the sense of structure. It has a process. It has a risk framework. It has rules that do not bend based on how a trade feels at 2 in the afternoon on a Friday when you are down for the week and the market suddenly looks like it is setting up for exactly the trade you have been waiting for. That feeling is the most dangerous moment in trading, and every experienced institutional participant knows it because they have a system specifically designed to remove it from the equation. Here is what a retail trader actually looks like from where you sit. They enter late into moves. They size up when they are winning and down when they are losing. They move their stop losses when price approaches them. They sit in losing trades far past the point of logic and cut winners before they have matured. They treat a 2% move as a signal and a 10% trend as noise. They are not doing this because they are unintelligent. They are doing it because they are human, and the market is structured in a way that systematically exploits the most predictable human responses to financial uncertainty. The traders who make it to the other side of that learning curve do something specific. They study what happened before the move, not during it. They look at where liquidity was sitting before price moved. They identify the pattern of accumulation or distribution that preceded the trend. They do this on chart after chart, in market after market, across different time frames, until the pattern stops looking like hindsight and starts looking like structure that repeats because the underlying mechanics that create it never change. The mechanics never change because human psychology never changes. Fear and greed have been operating in markets for as long as markets have existed. The instruments change, the speed changes, the technology changes, but the behavior of groups of people under financial pressure remains almost perfectly consistent, and that consistency is what you are exploiting every single day from your side of the screen. At the end of this, the question is not whether the game is fair. It is not. The question is whether there is a version of this game that a retail trader can play with a real edge. And the answer is yes, but only if they understand what they are actually playing. You are not competing with another retail trader in a fair contest. You are navigating a system that was built by participants far larger than yourself, and that operates according to rules that most people never learn to read. The traders who survive learn to move with that system rather than against it. They learn to identify when the liquidity has been taken, when the stop hunt is complete, when the weak hands have been cleared, and when the real move is about to begin. They wait. They do not chase. They let price come to them. You sit at your desk. The screens glow. The numbers move. You are not angry at the retail traders on the other side of your book. You are not rooting against them. You are simply doing what the structure of the system requires you to do. You provide liquidity. You manage risk. You profit from the spread and from the positioning. And every day, on the other side of the screen, retail traders are making the same mistakes in the same sequence for the same emotional reasons, until the ones who survive long enough figure out what you already know, that the market is not random, that price moves to liquidity, that structure precedes every real move, and that understanding that is the only edge that actually holds up over time.